Islam. Sorry for the delay. We're about to go ahead and get started. 61 through 70. Okay, all meetings are to be opened and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. If you are able to, please rise and face the east. Allah,
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 Father of the universe,
Father of the universe,
Father of love,
Father of love,
truth,
truth,
peace,
peace,
freedom,
freedom,
and justice.
and justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah is my protector,
my guide,
my guide,
and my salvation,
and my salvation,
by night and by day,
by night and by day,
through his holy prophet,
through his holy prophet,
Drew Ali.
through Ali.
Amen.
Amen.
Right. Islamism. Okay, I want to announce that the meeting is now open. First and foremost, we rise. We give the highest praise to the Most High, our Father God Allah. We give honors to our divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, for bringing us our divine creed and nationality so that we may learn to love instead of hate. We give honors to the forerunner to the prophet, our brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey, for preparing the way for Noble Drew Ali. We give honors to all ADEP sheiks and all the faithful Moors that make up the grand body of the Moorish divine and national movement. We give honors to the first appointed Supreme Grand Sheikh by the Prophet, Brother E. Millie Ill. Honors to our current Supreme Grand Sheikh, Brother K. Dandridgel. We also give honors to the Grand Council of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and honors to all Ills and Bays on the call. Islam, Islam, Islamism. Brother Jackson Bey, would you please read the divine constitution and bylaws?
Islam, I rise, giving perfect praise to Allah and honors to the Prophet Drew Ali. Salvation, Allah, unity, the Moorish Science Temple of America, the divine constitution and bylaws. Act 1, the Grand Sheikh and Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce law with the assistance of the Prophet and the grand body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2, all meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest, because on a Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is a holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4, all members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must preserve the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are part and parcel of the government and must live life accordingly. Act 5, this organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, Black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7, All members must promptly attend their meetings and become part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious, become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father God, Allah. Noble Drew Ali, founder, Moorish American Prayer, Allah, Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. The Moorish Science Temple of America, home office of Noble Drew Ali, home office, Chicago, Illinois, USA. Islam, Islam, Islamism. Happy Sunday.
Islamism. Thank you, brother. Okay, we're gonna pick up today where we last left off in the Quran questionnaire. We're gonna be doing questions 61 through 70, and we'll just speak on them briefly. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, or if you have any insight, anything you want to add, feel free to speak up. Brother Lawson L, do you have your questionnaire? Okay, his audio might not be working. Oh, if you're speaking, it looks like your mic is on. We can't hear you. Yeah, we still can't hear you. You might need to leave and come back in. I saw the mic get unmuted, but can't hear anything. Yeah, I see the voice thing moving on there, but we can't hear anything. All right, we'll just wait, see if that brother can come back in, if his audio works. All right, let's try again.
Islam, can you hear me?
Islam, loud and clear.
Okay. Sorry for the technical glitch there. Um, give honors to all of Moors on the call this evening. 61 from the questionnaire. What is the modern name of those angels? Asiatics. What is the shade of their skin? Olive. 63. Are the Moorish Americans any relation to those angels? Yes. We are all from the same father and mother. 64. Give 5 names that are given to the descendants of Adam and Eve. Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast. What is the devil sometimes called? The lower self. How many selves are there? 2. Name them. The higher self and the lower self. What people represent the higher self? The angels who protect the holy city of Mecca. 69. What people represent the lower self? Those who were cast out of the holy city and those who accept their teaching. 70. What is the higher self? The higher self is the mother of the virtues and the harmonies of life, and breeds justice, mercy, love, and right. Islamism.
Islam. Okay, thank you. We're gonna go back through this, and I definitely advise taking notes. Okay. All right. Can you read question 61 again?
Yes, what is the modern name of those angels? Asiatics.
Okay. All right. So yeah, the answer is the modern name for the angels is Asiatics. And so once again, this is alluding that angels are humans, or at least that some humans are angels. And we got that also in question 38. Can Brother Lawsonell, can you read question 38?
Islam 38. What is an angel? An angel is a thought of Allah manifested in human flesh.
Okay. So this is letting you know that some humans are angels, and that they manifest the will of Allah. And in question 39, it says that they carry the messages to the 4 corners of the world, to all nations. All right. And also, we learned that the race of these angels, who the ones who's guarding the holy city of Mecca to keep the unbelievers away, was Asiatic, because they were olive-skinned people, olive-hued people. And their origins could also be traced to the Garden of Eden in Southwest Asia. All right, so we're told that the modern name for those angels, all right, the ones who are guarding the holy city of Mecca is Asiatics. All right, and we're related to them. And could you read question 62?
62. What is the shade of their skin? Olive.
Okay, and that's important also. Like, a lot of times we're seeing olives, the green, we're seeing the green ones. And so that might not make sense, but that's the fruit that's unripe, right? You could still eat it though. So you got, usually we're seeing like olives, especially like in the stores or whatever, we're seeing the green or the black ones, the ones that are like totally black. But the green ones, as they get ripe, they change from green to light brown, all the way to dark brown. And so when the prophet was saying that the Asiatics have olive tone skin, and he's talking about us being olive tone, he's alluding to this, like olives go all the way from light brown all the way to dark brown. They pretty much cover all these different shades of skin, just like ours, because we go all the way from light brown to dark brown. Some people really dark, like almost black, and then all the way up to extremely light. Okay, so from light olive to dark olive. And that's why he was using the word olive, and that's why it's significant, because it's covering the whole range. And then also the olive tree is symbolic, because like the ancient people considered the olive tree to be a symbol of peace and wisdom. And then that's in Islamic tradition also, the blessed olive tree. It's a symbol of Islam, and of course we know the root of Islam is peace, and it was a symbol of peace, right? So we're being tied back into that, returning to our root. Also, let's move on to question 63. Could you repeat that one?
63. Are there Moorish Americans in relation to those angels? Yes. We all have the same father and mother.
Okay, so he's going back to the what was said in question 60, where it's talking about the ones who are guarding the holy city of Mecca, keeping the angels away. And he was speaking about back in his time, 1920s, and these were Asiatic people, the Arabians. Okay, and he's saying, yes, we're related to them, which means that they come from Adam and Eve. We talked about before how when the prophet was speaking about Adam and Eve, he was speaking about Adam and Eve as in a plural form. Question 50, can you read question 57, Lawson?
Islam. Who are Adam and Eve? They are the mothers and fathers of the human family, Asiatics and Muslims.
Islam. All right, so right in there, you hear mothers and fathers. So that's alluding to Adam and Eve was plural. These were people, tribes, entire people. These wasn't like one person or one man and one woman. But in this one, he's using it in the singular form, saying that the father and mother, right? And this is going back to the plural reference where saying that Adam and Eve are the fathers and mothers of the human family, right? In question 59, like he just read. All right. And
It's Islam.
Islam.
When you're talking about the fathers and mothers, we're talking about the 12 tribes of Israel.
Okay. On this, like when he's talking about the fathers and mothers,
right?
He's talking
of the
about
Asiatics.
Yeah, he's alluding to the all right. In chapter 1, we have the fall of man, right? He's alluding to the people who are already populating the earth, when we first start to come into the human flesh.
Okay.
And so he's speaking about like something that actually predates the lineage of the Bible, because the Bible is only going to go back like 6,000 years.
Islam.
Right? But he's actually talking about the ancient people, the first people to populate the planet. All right, which kind of ties into the Kabbalah reference that I keep alluding to with the term Asiatic, saying that Asiatic has a deeper meaning, that it's actually referring to us being the first people to come into the flesh. This is what he's talking about. And so when he's saying, Adam and Eve, he's talking about, like it says, fathers and mothers. He's talking about ancient people, right? The
Islam.
first people. Islam. I was trying to bring up this image for you. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is like a representation showing that different levels of reality in the Kabbalah, and it's showing that Asia is the physical realm, which I don't even think it's just limited to the earth. I think this is just talking about the physical realm and period. But since we're on earth, we'll just stick to that. The first people to come into the first physical people, which insinuates that at one point we were more than just, we weren't, physical beings. We were spiritual beings, or, we lived in a different plane of reality. All right. And so when he's saying that they're Asiatics, and he's saying in the plural, this is saying that there were several people. There was no just one or two people. There were several.
Islam. So Adam and Eve would refer to the masculine and the feminine energy or people at that time.
Islam. Okay. All right. And we get back. Where did we leave off? 63?
We just finished 57 talking about Adam and Eve and the mother and father.
Okay.
We did talk about 62, the olive skin people.
Okay, so Yeah, just with 63, just saying that we have we all have the same father and mother. It's just reconnecting us, letting us know that we are related to the Arabians, who are from Mecca, or who guarded the holy city of Mecca. So in this instance, he's just reconnecting us to these people. All right, he's saying that like the national descent name of the Asiatics in Mecca was Arabian. And he's saying that Moorish Americans are related to those angels because they came from Adam and Eve. And we know that Adam and Eve weren't just, you know, a woman and a man. These were ancient people. These are our ancestors, basically. All right. And that's also why you'll see some of the symbols like the hand press of unity, right? This is a international symbol. And it's also has the word Asia under it. So it's the uniting of Asia. So it doesn't matter if they're over there or over here or in another part of the world, they're Asiatic. So we're all unified. We all have these common bonds, regardless of our location, because we all descend from, you could say Adam and Eve, or you could just say we all have the same ancestors. We're all Asiatics. All right. So in this modern day, we all have our own nationalities, our own cultures and everything, but we all are the same race. We're all Asiatic because our father and mother are Adam and Eve. Okay. But we know Adam and Eve is not just a man and a woman. These are our ancestors, basically. Right. So moving on to question 64. See, could you read that one out again?
664. Give the 5 names that are given to the descendants of Adam and Eve: Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast.
Islam. Go ahead, sister.
Islam. Praise Allah, honors to his prophet, honors to all you Moors in attendance. I just wanted to focus on the word descent. That means to, can you pull the definition of descent? Islam, an action of moving downward, dropping or falling. Okay, that is in the beginning of the word descendant. So if we understand the descent part, the fall of Adam and Eve, Islam.
All right, Islam. So I want to tie into that too. Was somebody else trying to speak? Okay, so just to add to what she just said about descent, and that means falling or moving downward. Okay, so the question is, give the 5 names that are given to the descendants of Adam and Eve: Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast. Okay, and we learned that the Asiatics is the modern name for the children of Adam and Eve, right? So this could be confusing. It's just like we're the descendants of Adam and Eve, right? We're Asiatics. So the prophet's talking about something totally different here, okay? By using that word descendants, he's revealing a profound truth, because it's asking who did the lower self originate with? Or you know, where did it come from? Did it descend from Adam and Eve, or the first physical man? And so when we look in chapter 1, the fall of man, which is detailing, you know, how we came into the physical. We know that it didn't come from the first man. Chapters 1, chapters 11 and 3 in our Holy Quran establish this. The first physical man didn't have a lower self. The first this is a process that happened over time. For example, without just quoting exactly from the Quran, our form began to vibrate slower and become more and more dense, right? So this process developed over time, and the lower self began to develop its own consciousness and want to survive, you know, on its own. And eventually, you know, we fell totally into the lower self to the point where it's ruling, for many of us, or most of us, is ruling, running the show. So this wasn't, you know, this didn't just happen over, you know, right away. The first physical man didn't have a lower self. Adam and Eve is where the lower self came from. Okay, so this is saying that the, you know, the lower self originated with Adam and Eve. Okay, and that's why I say from this is who it descended from. It was from them, you know, from their flesh that the lower self sprang. Okay, and then it's giving you the 5 names that were given to them, and like Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast. And even in those names, there's truth hidden in there too, because with the 5 names, you have these 5 masks, 5 disguises, the 5 personalities of the lower self. And since we're kind of at war with our lower self, you have to know these things so that you can recognize them, right? If you understand how they move, then you'll be wise enough to move throughout life and to recognize when these things appear, when they're showing themselves in our own behavior. Like Lucifer represents the intellectual mind without the illumination of the spiritual mind. So it's a false light. And then Satan is the adversary. He's the deceiver. It's the one that invites others to the disobedience of Allah. The devil represents the accuser, the slanderer. The dragon represents greed, passion, lust, ignorance, and perversion, and that which is earthbound. And then the beast represents the craving for gross materialism. Okay, and so the lower self is cunning, and it's not going to come to you in a way that makes you just automatically turn off from it. It's going to come at you in ways that are appealing, right? And it's going to come to us in all types of forms. Close friend, it could be, you know, something that's seductive. It might even be like a promising idea. And so by giving us those names, it's giving us different ways to recognize the lower self, no matter how it disguises itself. Okay, and this is also reminding us that even though we're Asiatics and we have this divine origin, that we still have to contend with the lower self. We need to be aware of this. There's a hadith too, where allegedly the Prophet Muhammad said, one learned believer is more formidable to Satan than 1,000 ordinary believers. And it's saying that because the learned believer is wise and insightful and is able to identify the lower self regardless of what disguise it's using. And then the ordinary believer, even though they might be sincere, they don't identify the lower self, you know, because it comes to them in a subtle form. It comes to them, you know, it's not easy to distinguish. And that's where you get the saying too, the road to hell is paved by good intentions. Right? You might not be able to recognize the disguise that the lower self is in, and then wind up doing more harm than good, Jesus was also frequently tested by the lower self, and the different disguises that he used. There's when Jesus is in the wilderness, you have the 3 temptations of Jesus. And for the most part, like, of course, when Jesus is being tested for 40 days, 40 nights, but Satan is coming and testing Jesus. Like in chapter 15 of the Moorish Holy Quran, the lower self says to Jesus, if you be the son of Allah, command these stones to turn to bread. And then just Jesus' wisdom comes to the forefront here because he knows that this is a test. So he says, who is it that demands a test? Because he knows that Allah speaks to man in a still small voice, right? The lower self is the one that wants you to prove your manhood, prove, how big and bad you are, prove what you could do. So you have to be able to recognize these things. They whisper in the hearts of all men, and it's disguising itself as God. So you have to be able to discern the difference, but you can't tell the difference if you don't even know how to recognize it. So these are just giving us the names because these are like the characteristics of the lower self. And we're all in a spiritual war. Let's go ahead and move on. Question 65. Could you read that out too?
Islam. What is the devil? What is the devil sometimes called? The lower self. Islam.
All right, Islam. Okay, and this is just connecting us again to a higher truth, right? To know who the devil truly is. We're not putting it out there. The answer is always within, right? And even though they, like in the mainstream culture, I guess they show the devil having horns, it's still some person outside of you or something, right? And this is just like in chapter 3 in the Quran, the prophet is teaching us the only devil from which man must be redeemed is self, the lower self. So the devil it's not something out there. It's our lower self. It's the carnal nature that sprang forth from the flesh, right? And by saying it sprang forth from the flesh, that's also giving the truth of the lower self that it's stuck here. It's earthbound. It doesn't exist anywhere else. So it comes into existence with the birth of the human body, and it's limited to this plane, the plane of things made manifest. So where there is no human body, there is no lower self, which is the devil. And then also in chapter 3 of the Quran, the prophet reveals another truth when he says it is a reflection of the higher self distorted by the murky ethers of the flesh. And the word reflection literally means an effect produced by an influence. So the lower self is the effect and the higher self is the influence. It's the shadow. So does the shadow define the object? No, the shadow is a reflection. Right? And when the shadow passed, the object is still there. So that's what the lower self is. It doesn't exist independent of us. And it cannot exist without the higher self. But the higher self can exist without it. So good can exist without evil, but evil cannot exist without good. And that's a fundamental truth. Islam, and that's the truth is always, the truth is unchanging. It's everlasting. All right, so the higher self exists on its own and it's independent of anything else. The lower self is dependent on us being in physical human bodies. And it's just a distortion of the truth. And that leads into question 66.
66, Islam. How many cells are there? 2.
Islam. And that's just hitting on the reality that we live in. We're in a world of duality, right? We perceive male and female, hot and cold. You have light and dark, positive, negative, and that duality is also in us, in the higher self and the lower self, right? That's where you get the conceptions of good and evil, right and wrong, heaven and hell, truth and falsehood. So that's a simple one. Question, can you read question 67?
67. Name them. Higher self and lower self.
Okay. All right. And the word jihad, right? Jihad literally means struggling in the path of Allah. And then it's loosely defined as holy war. And
Islam, brother. Could you repeat that? You blacked out.
Oh, I'm sorry. The word jihad, Jihad, that's an Arabic word meaning struggling in the path of Allah. And then it's also loosely defined as holy war. And when the Prophet Muhammad was asked about jihad, he said the lesser jihad is outside oneself, right? Actually going to war with other people. That's the lesser jihad. The greater jihad is within, right? Between the higher and lower self. Because each day you're going through this holy war. This is a great battle raging between the higher and lower self. So the true battleground is within our own soul. And then in chapter 3, going back to the same chapter in the Moorish Holy Quran, the prophet gives the description of the higher and lower self and the things that he says about the higher self. There's, well, we're going to talk about 2 of them in specifically. He says the higher self is a human spirit clothed with soul, made in the form of Allah. And the higher self is Allah in man. Okay, so the higher self is a human spirit clothed with soul. So it's not the soul. The soul is like, just like our body. Our body's like a suit that we use to operate in the physical world. The soul is a suit that you use to operate in the soul plane. So the higher self is human spirit clothed with soul, made in the form of Allah. And the higher self is Allah in man. Okay. The human spirit, right? Because it says the higher self is human spirit. The human spirit is one and the same and parted among all men and women. But then souls are numerous. All right. So if the higher self is, is Allah in man, there's the human spirit. That's how come we're all connected. We're all tied. We're all connected by cords. Right. And you take on the soul to go and experience this realm with this individuality and things like that. So you have numerous souls, and the soul gives us our individuality. It's where we get our personalities. Okay. And to be made in the form of Allah is to be made in the essential nature of Allah. So when you're looking at that, the higher self is Allah and man, it means that Allah is individualized and personalized within man. So through each individual soul and personality, Allah is able to manifest and express himself or experience life in you know, in the various planes, in the physical plane. And then that's also why we all have different skills, different things that we bring to the world, to things that we bring to the table. And that's how Allah manifests itself through all of us. All right. Okay, let's move on to 68.
68, Islam. What people represent the higher self? The angels who protect the holy city of Mecca. I believe we said they were the Asiatics. Some of them were humans.
Islam. Yeah, so we talked about that too last week. Question 60, thinking about who's guarding the holy city of Mecca. And last week, we're talking about in that time period when the Prophet was there, you had Abdul Aziz ibn Saud, and that's who's on the inside cover of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. And he's on that cover because he unified the entire Arabian Peninsula, all these different tribes, and you know, he unified it all under what they were practicing, which is called Wahhabism. So it was like a kind of like a return to the root of Islam, where they're just focusing on Allah, Muhammad, and just practicing Islam. So he unified the whole Arabian Peninsula under that, and they based their laws off of this, right? And so this is why respect was being paid to him. Okay, and so going to this this question: what people represent the higher self? The angels who protect the holy city of Mecca. They're protecting the holy city of Mecca to keep the unbelievers away. So they don't represent the higher self exclusively. The word represent means to present a lifelike image of, right? To present a lifelike image of, or to act the part or role of, or to serve as an example or symbol of. Okay, so saying they represent it doesn't mean necessarily that they are the higher self. It just means they're playing that part. And in some ways, maybe they're playing that part until we're able to do it. Okay, and in chapter 3 of the Quran, it's saying the higher self is justice, mercy, love, and right. So anyone who acts with justice, mercy, love, and right, and protects that which is sacred is representing the higher self. Okay, anyone who's acting with justice, mercy, love, and right, and protects that which is sacred is representing the higher self. Okay, and question 69.
Islam 69. What people represent the lower self? Those who were cast out of the holy city and those who accept their teaching.
Okay, and so to put that in the proper perspective, would have to look back in history around that time period in the 1920s, and just to see what was going on there. And at this time, like you said, the Saud ibn Aziz, Abdul Aziz ibn Saud, right there. He's unifying all the tribes. So he's also, it's saying cast out of the holy city. The people that were cast out were Arabian tribes who were run out of Mecca and Medina by Abdul Aziz ibn Saud, and all of the people that were under his Wahhabism. So the people who were morally unprincipled, who weren't going to go along with, you know, Islamic rule, Islamic law, you know, because they're governments, they have Islamic government, all of these things that are supposed to be like when they make laws, when they're making decisions, they're supposed to be referring to the Quran and seeing if it's allowed, if it's permitted by Allah, right? And so it's not saying that, you know, now and today these people are perfect. Okay, remember we said represent means to serve as an example of, or to act a part of, present a lifelike image of. So they're giving us an example of having a theocratic government where it's, you know, based off of God, right? Based off of Allah. Okay, so they were giving an example. So they were basing the government and the rule off of these principles, off of Islam. And so the ones who didn't want to go along with that, these different tribes, they were ran out. And so that's what that would represent. And so, like, yeah, you know, people aren't going to know this. So just trying to bring that and bring some clarity to that for what was going on in that time. These tribes that weren't going to go along, for whatever reasons, they were ran out. Okay. And
Peace,
so,
peace,
Islam.
peace, Islam. So these tribes that were ran out of Mecca, did they establish their own religion? And that's why we have this sort of diversity today
Well,
in Islam.
Islam. So you had different things that happened. Some of them later on may have came into Islam, but the way that they practiced, you know, wouldn't say that necessarily that they were had like a different religion or a different sect, but maybe that, you know, they didn't adhere to it the same way, like with the same strictness. All right, because over time, in some areas, Islam was growing, and so, you know, wherever, depending on where they went, whether they went into Asia Minor or wherever they went to, they may have ended up coming to Islam. Some of them even went to into like Christianity or Catholicism, right? So it all depends on where they were and what was going on in that area politically.
Islam.
So and then once again too, it's saying represent. So, you know, just represent means anyone who's acting in this way, right, is characteristic of the lower self. They're serving as an example of the lower self.
Islam. So I would say this question answers this question would be like saying the answer for this question in short form would be anyone who does not act with justice, mercy, love, and right with respects to something holy. That's who represents the lower self.
Islam. And, you know, we can say that about a lot of our people, especially if they're exposed to this and they still refuse to come along, or they don't want to come along because they don't want to do what's right. You know, you could say they're representing the lower self. And then, you know, we could be representing the lower self all of the time, right? If I'm trying to prove a point to somebody and I'm getting caught up and maybe I'm, you know, online or wherever, just trying to show that I'm smarter than them or know better than them, I'm representing the lower self at that point in time because I'm stuck up in, you know, vanity and trying to prove things that don't even really matter. And so, like, we have to be aware of these things. That's why I can't sit up here. None of us can sit up here and act like we're so spiritual and we're so better than any of us, because all of us get caught up in this stuff on a regular basis. Islam. So let's move on. Islam, brother.
I just wanted to add, like, when you said, you know, like, I be doing that too, bro. Like, sometimes I be going and I just thought I be going and I be catching myself, but when you be thinking about it and later events, you be like, dang, I ain't even have to say much. And then, like, it go back to 64 with what you had said, Lucifer, you know, when we see ourselves acting and trying to prove stuff, because we got the intellectual light and not the spiritual light, you feel me? That's when we act in Lucifer. So, like, you know, it's that's what made me think it's like Lucifer, because, you know, they say Lucifer is the light bringer, So people associate light with, you know, knowledge and stuff like that. So, but what kind of light you bringing, like, you know, and then you had elaborated earlier on the Lucifer thing. So Islam.
Islam. That's true. Allah speaks in a still small voice. So yeah, we don't have to be out here proving anything, proving we're smarter, any of that stuff. And you know, sometimes it's hard to remember those things, but that too ties into the passage we're sharing from chapter 15, where Jesus is being tested and Satan's telling him to prove that you can, you know, turn this stone into bread, or, you know, and it's like, why? You know, we don't have to do this. Most of the time you don't even have to talk, right? And then yeah, so that's really important to keep these things in mind at all times. It's an ongoing process, right, for all of us. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the last question, question 70.
70, Islam. What is the higher self? The higher self is the mother of the virtues and the harmonies of life, and breeds justice, mercy, love, and right. Islam.
Islam. All right, so wherever harmony exists, the higher self is present, because the higher self gives birth, it promotes, it gives birth to all the harmonies of life. And it's telling us that it breeds justice and mercy. So it gives birth to justice and mercy and love and right. It gives birth to love, wisdom, compassion, sincerity, faith. All of these things that are good, right? They're all birthed by the higher self. Islam.
Islam.
Islam. So that concludes the Morris questionnaire for today. We'll start at 71 next week. Does anybody else have any questions, anything that they wanted to add? Okay. All right. All right. I want to announce it. We're going to go into the closing of the meeting. Brother Jackson Bay, will you please read the additional laws?
The additional laws for the Moorish Americans by the Prophet Noble Ali. Act 1. Grand sheiks and governors and heads of all temples, all businesses, each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Ali before acting upon by any member, let it be finance, property, or any line of life that will cause the support of any group of members. Any former officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from office under heavy restrictions, etc. by the Prophet or the Grand Sheikh. Act 2. All members are to attend their added meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on their meeting period, shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second will be fined $1, which will go on your emergency fund. If a member is working, his monthly dues must be paid, and if he has money in the bank, he must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish Uplifting Fund, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3. It is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able to give finance, to aid me in saving the nation, and if he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she, according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I had the power invested in my hands, and I will have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4. All members, while up making public speeches, must not use any assertion against the American flag or speak radically against the church or any member of any organized group, because we are to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5. All members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school, and the teacher must confirm himself to the questionnaire, and let every member exercise his 5 senses who is able to do so, because out of your Sunday school comes the guidance of the nation. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed. that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father God Allah. Islam, Islam, Islamism.
All right, Islamism. Right, Brother Cole Bay, would you please read the writs of the prophet?
Islam, I give rise and all honors to great God Allah, our Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and all Muslims on the phone, on the call today, to be proclaimed in every meeting. Islam, I am glad to know I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation. They claim that I was a joke and unreal. But now, since they found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifted funds, the ones that pay their divine respects to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me and your prophet and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finances so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that's facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world would not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Prophet warns all Muslims to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, and on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards to Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their rewards from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law that is laid down to them by the prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Drew Ali, and the prophet is not right. The temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out the plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting the prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace, Noble Drew Ali. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam. This is instructions from your prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Be faithful unto your forefather divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and the judgment is on now, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of times is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I, Noble Drew Ali. And that is why many hearts are turned to stone. Many have eyes to see, but cannot see, ears to hear, but cannot hear. Least they will be confined of their sins. These are the trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your property. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles in your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace. Your divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Islam, Islam, Islamism.
All right, thank you, brother. Islamism. Okay, unless anybody has anything they wanted to announce or any questions, we're going to go ahead and close out. All right, I appreciate you all. We're going to close. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Please rise for the closing prayer. Allah, bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefathers' divine creed and principles. We ask this in thy holy name and the 7 Elohim. Amen. Islamism.
Islamism.
Love y'all.
Love.
Peace and love.
Islamism. Peace and love, Moors.
Right, peace and love.
Peace and love.
Yeah. So what are they doing in the group, Brandy?